Well, with every good foundation, you need a great footing, and that's what we're placing today. We got the footing forms in place. We're placing the concrete, now putting the reinforcing vertical rods into place, and that's for the ICF system that's going to be used for the foundation. That's the insulated concrete form system, and that's the next step. Well, we've got the footings all finished. In fact, we've got 2 rows already in place of the ICF system. That's the insulated concrete form system called ARCS, and it's by ARCS Building Products. And to talk about it, I've got Glenn. How are you doing, Glenn?
Hello, Shell. I'm doing great.
Hey, now this is a system that is unbelievable. It's so fast, it's so light, and it looks as though it's so easy. It's just like that Lego set. Tell me about it.
This is an insulated concrete form, ICF market they call it. And this is a 90-degree corner, what you're holding. It comes to the site just like that, and it's held together with these plastic webs.
Now, you've got, this is a corner piece, and then you've got the straight pieces, obviously, that are being put in place right now. But, you know, the system, tell me about it. It's obviously pretty safe to work with.
It is, and just to show you here, this is what's holding the whole thing together. This is a product made in Canada,
now,
made out of plastic.
Plastic?
Yes.
Now, what about all the grooves here?
Well, that's for our rebar to lock into. You'll
so
see
this is down in here then?
We have many different options that we can work with to engineer a job.
Right. Now down inside here, this so I could see that what you're pointing at. Now you got horizontal rebar, you got bent rebar going around the corner, and then there's some vertical rebar inside here.
Well, every job's going to be different. These are our footing dowels coming up, and we can design for just about any type of job, and that's why we have so many notches in our webs.
Now this corner piece here, this looks like a great big zap snap.
Well, that's what it is. It's an anchorage in the corner. We have a corner plastic piece in here that we can attach siding to and things on the outside and drywall, whatever would need to be attached to it. And we use this to hold it during concrete placement and to give us anchorage after the concrete.
So that this goes in and pulls tight, and bingo, it's in place. Right. Now, also there's some horizontal laid, almost like a mesh reinforcing here.
That's a block lock, they call it. And it's just a zigzag piece of metal, and we use that just for aligning our walls. We just lock that in. It fits right into our product and just keeps our walls nice and straight. We'll only do that a couple times in our wall just to keep it straight.
So that keeps it from wandering or snaking on the footing.
Makes it like a ruler.
Now, the system, when it locks together with these neat little X's, is that enough stability to take that thrust of concrete being placed in the
Yes, we've designed this to work by itself. We don't have to glue it together. It will lock itself together very tightly. This is held in. You can see that. I don't have any glue in that. And that's also will hold the concrete pressure when we put the concrete in, all the way up to the top, 10 feet of concrete. Plus, it'll hold internal vibration. So we put vibrators into our wall, and it's been designed for that. Now,
I noticed when you were putting the wall, the first row on top of the footing, that you're using a foam here called an inner foam. What's that all about?
Well, this is a product we've been working with quite a bit and working with the people. They have done tests for us, and we just hold our product down onto the concrete with it. So if we have a footing or a slab, this will be our anchor down to the bottom. That way we don't have to put any cleats down.
Keeps it nice and straight, and, well, as you say...
It's fast, and it's more solid, actually.
It doesn't require the cleats, as you're indicating as well.
That's right.
Now, the plastic strips, the recycled plastic strips, I might add, that they're used for applying siding on the outside or any
drywall on the inside.
Or drywall on the inside. Now, let's talk about the outside for a moment, though.
Right.
If we were going to be putting siding on, and this particular wall was going right up to the soffits, you would have no problem whatsoever putting the siding right onto those plastic clips.
Not a problem. Depending on the type of siding, we have different approvals for all different types of sidings, and there's different ways to do it, but normally we'll just use screws, and we'll just screw right into the product
Wow.
We have all the testing to prove that.
Now, what about tar paper? You have to put tar paper under your siding.
No, that's the beauty of this product. It's an air barrier and a vapor barrier.
So therefore, no air barrier, no tar paper is required, no matter if it's a stucco or right on up into wood siding or cement siding or whatever. Now, on the inside, if I was going to be applying drywall on the inside, pretty easy to screw it into those 8-inch centers, which would give us 16-inch centers very easily.
That's right.
Now, what about a vapor barrier, though?
No, the vapor barrier is in the product.
So therefore, it's a vapor barrier
and an air barrier.
It's
all reversible.
Wow. So you got the thermal capacity of a foam, you got the rigidity and stability of concrete and all the reinforcing. This is a system that really does the whole 9 yards.
Well, there's a little more to it than that. The concrete isn't just for structural, for stability. It actually, we use it as a thermal mass.
Also for a heat sink.
That's right. We protected it with foam, and that way we can protect it. And just an example of that, if the temperature outside goes up or down 40 degrees, that's protecting us inside the house from that temperature going up and down. So we don't feel drafts in the house.
Now, what about below grade? Like this foundation here is going to be, well, almost 10 feet. But below grade, there's going to be about 7 feet.
Right. We need to protect that. We need to protect this foam from the backfill coming against it and working at it, and also the groundwater working against it. And we will do that. We have a product over here. This is a waterproof membrane, we call it. We provide this. It's a 3-foot wide roll. This is how it comes onto site. And we would just cut off the lengths that we need, and you'll see we peel paper off of it. It's very sticky. It will stick to our foam very good, and we put that on vertically.
And so it goes vertical, overlaps, so what, a couple inches?
We have 2.5-inch overlap.
Oh,
here.
That's great. So therefore, once that's in place now, you just can backfill right up against it.
Well, we put a protection board against it, and then we backfill against that.
Backfill against that.
Right.
Wow. So features.
Features. I guess the biggest thing is energy. Like I said, with this thermal mass of concrete, that's the biggest part. But there's more to it than that. People want to be comfortable in their places nowadays. So what we do is we have a building that's solid. You don't feel wind from outside. You don't feel fire, things like that. Safety issues with the product's a big thing.
So it won't burn?
It won't burn. This concrete will protect you from the fire. The foam will melt a little bit, but it has a fire retardant built in, so it will not hold fire. Tornadoes, earthquakes,
so it's got
hurricanes,
that rackability.
That's right. And then as simple as just slamming the door and not having the pictures flap on the wall. So that's what I buy it for.
Now this wall here has gone up to the point that it is here in about, well, just a little over 2 hours. And in fact, you could put a foundation in a day.
Yes, you could.
So we'll pump the concrete in from the top.
That's right.
And I understand that the placer is going to use a 2-inch hose and pump in that aggregate concrete into the whole foundation system.
Well, most commonly we'll use a 3 or 4-inch hose on the top, but because we have a house above us, we have very limited space on the top.
To work around.
They're going to use a 2-inch hose with a special mix, yes.
That's excellent. Glenn, I want to thank you very much for giving us a full rundown on the ARC system.
It was a pleasure.
Great. Well, we're finally getting inside this project here, and we start the restructuring. And with me today, I've got Les Stevenson from Stevenson Design Works. How are you doing, Les?
I'm doing great, Shel.
Great to work with you on this project. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. First of all, what do you think of this heritage home?
Well, it's great. We've taken a look at some of the structural aspects of the home and determined that it's worth fixing. Yeah, there are some things that need to be updated.
We're going to do a lot of tearing apart here, no doubt, but we're going to keep the character of the heritage.
Oh, absolutely.
But listen, over here, I got a problem. This wall here, because the old living room here was a good-sized room, but they did everything in the living room in those days. Great big fireplace, which we'll replace. But here, there's a bedroom right off the living room, but it's small. Can we move that wall out 18 inches?
You sure can. I mean, there are some floor joist issues to discuss. Also, we need to pick up on bearing from this wall down on the foundation down below. We also need to think about, okay, now the wall's coming over, windows got to move over with it, so that has to be addressed. We're getting new windows, I think, anyway. And the fireplace would have to be recentered in the room.
So therefore, this balancing it up then.
Other than that,
and we'll get a designer involved in that. And the old staircase going upstairs here, it's way too narrow, so it's going to have to be rebuilt.
Well, it doesn't meet code, and I think finding another location for it might be a good idea as well.
Hey, the floor.
Isn't this great? I mean, it's ed grade and fir. This is one of the reasons people love heritage homes.
Boy, I'll tell you, it looks as though they finished it right around the carpet.
Yeah, well, that's the way they did things in those days.
Take enough time to do it, and that's all.
Okay.
Come on with the kitchen.
Okay, doke. Well, Shel, we're coming into what's going to be the new dining room, and we've got this area and a number of other changes to do into this space.
And being the old kitchen, I'll tell you, the old porcelain, the old drain board, hey, there's some wonderful old memories there, I'm sure.
There sure are. Some of them best forgot. In particular, we're going to take this up into the living room. Remember, and we talked about moving that wall over and making the living room a little bit smaller. This is now going to expand the space, taking this wall out, makes for a nice, wide, bright, open space.
Oh, yeah, beautiful at the front entry, and you can see where the old chimney come out. We're not going to need that anymore.
No,
what about the kitchen? Where's the kitchen?
Well, kitchen's going to be over, located in this part of the home. We're going to, again, remove this wall, open up the space, and so basically on this floor, they'll be able to stand in the kitchen and look right into the dining room and the living room, kind of a great room effect.
Hey, great. Let's go and take a look at the bathroom.
Okay.
Well, here we are in the bathroom, Les, and it's a three-piece, and I'm sure that this is structurally sound underneath.
Sure, just like all the rest of the house, we're going to have to do some floor joist upgrading in some of these areas, but by and large, this house is just
enlarge the door so we can get in and out.
Well, if we're going to make this main floor user-friendly, we're going to have to address a number of items. Fixtures are going to have to be taken out.
Oh, I'm going to take those and have those refurbished and put upstairs in the upstairs bathroom.
Great. We need to make the door opening wider. People have to be able to get in with a wheelchair. Fixtures, the plumbing fixtures have to be user-friendly as well. So, handicap toilets, slide under sink, that sort of thing.
So all that's available and it's no problem?
No problem at all.
Well, there's one more room I want you to take a look at, and it's upstairs. Let's go upstairs. Well, Les, up here it's quite interesting. Lots of knee walls and rafter slopes and everything else.
Well, this is with heritage houses. This is the upper floors are usually one of the areas where we run into problems, and this house is a good example of that. The ceiling joists for the main floor are actually the floor joists.
The floor upstairs, yeah.
They are not strong enough to hold us up.
Right.
And so they're going to have to be changed.
So this used to be an attic in a lot of homes.
Yeah, it was just storage. It was never meant as living space. Dark, really dark in here. We've got an end gable window. We're going to fix that by putting a dormer in.
Great. So that'll brighten her up.
And another one on the other side.
And take those walls out. Actually, you're going to lift the whole roof off.
Well, this roof does not have any ventilation. Rafter size will be too small to match. And so the whole thing, and we're going to be building a dormer out the back in order to get more space up here. By the time we finish messing around with all that, just better to take the whole thing right off and start from
scratch with a new truss system and everything else.
That's right. So,
great.
And then, so that's where we are with this. But we know what I'd like to do. I'd like to go down and take a look at the basement and see what we got planned there.
You bet. Let's do it. Well, Les, here we are down in the basement area, and look at that old main beam. It's a cedar log, for goodness sakes, with some dry rot in it and 2x4 joists.
Well, thank goodness we don't build houses like that anymore. And so we're going to be upgrading the floor joist system in here in order to, with this engineered floor joist, and that's what's going to take care of holding up the house from the basement on
So the
up.
engineered flooring system is really going to be the answer for going in underneath and supporting everything all new on main support systems.
This is a fabulous product for a remodeling or renovation project. Again, they don't shrink. There's a lot of positive aspects to them.
Now, what about this home with all the changes? Dormers, a new roof, new bathrooms, everything. Are we going to still be able to keep that heritage character?
Absolutely shall be maintained by still using all the identifiable architectural items that use detailing on the outside of the house, and we'll be making on an ongoing basis.
Well, that's great. I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to you dropping around this site from time to time because we sure need that structural content.
Well, thank you very much, Sean.
You betcha. Well, we've got the ARC's ICF system all in place now, and with me I've got the contractor on the job, Bob McMillan. How are you, Bob?
Good, good.
You're at the concrete filling. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great day to be doing it, too.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, we're placing concrete here today with a line pump.
Now, why a line pump?
Instead of an overhead pump crane, you can use either one, but the building's kind of in the way for an overhead pump, so we're using a line pump.
So that way you can work in underneath, is that
underneath,
the case?
That's right. And,
okay.
And we're using a 2-inch line, and it's working real well with a 6-inch slump. So it's a real soupy concrete.
Right.
And it's working good. It's flowing real good through a 2-inch line.
I see the Rempel concrete truck here. Are they mixing and keeping that slump just right for you?
That's right. That's right.
And that's pretty important, I would think, especially with the 2-inch line.
Very important. That's
How do they control that?
They control it with water or a plasticizer, a chemical, either one.
Now, the plasticizer or the chemical, that's added to keep it thin?
Thin, that's right.
For how long?
for about an hour, and then it turns back to the standard slump
So it
that
goes
it was.
right back to its firmness and that within the form.
That's right.
And then where do you go from there?
We place, today we're placing about 30 inches at a time around the bottom, and to get it set and started, and then we've made 2 passes since then, so we're going to make 3 passes today.
So 3 passes, and that'll get it right up to the top of the wall.
Top, yeah.
Interesting, the actual scaffolding system is acting as not only a support to keep the wall nice and straight, but also to keep it perpendicular during the placing of concrete, supported back to the backfill. And then you have the catwalk around it. It sure makes it convenient.
That's correct. They call it an alignment system. It's built to align the wall perfectly straight.
Right.
And we have a scaffolding attachment that we hook onto it at the level we want to be able to work at the top of the wall.
Right, so you can work right up to the top. Now, when you're placing the concrete, as you indicated at the time in this particular case, is there a reason for that, just to keep it settling or setting?
Yeah, keep it work your way up, you bet.
Now, pounding on the side of the form, that more or less
consolidates the concrete
right in the...
That's right.
Great, it takes the air out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're doing that method instead of a vibrator. Again, the vibrator, it's kind of hard to get into with the house sitting on top, to get the vibrator in and up and down out of the walls.
Right. Well, this Heritage House has never had it so good, has it?
No, that's right.
Now, with the top of the wall being now, you can see it being placed, and it's being leveled off, troweled off.
Troweled off, right.
And what's the next step from there?
Then we'll put anchor bolts in.
No, the anchor bolts, so therefore, I'll just get one right here. Now, the anchor bolts that you're using here, Bob, are the crimp type, and I guess that's because they shove down easier into the concrete?
That's correct, yes.
Once the concrete gets a little stiff.
Yep.
Now, once that goes down into the concrete, on goes the plate, on goes the washer and the bolt, and then we're ready to bolt down the joist system.
That's correct, and so the whole house is fastened, anchored down to the concrete.
How long before we can drop the house on that foundation?
Well, 3 days would be good.
3 days is great, because we always say 28 days curing on the concrete, but it's curing all the time.
It keeps curing all the time.
But it's also structural after that 3 days.
That's right.
Now, what's the next step?
The waterproofing, the peeling stick goes on next.
Goes on, and that'll come up to the grade level.
Grade level, that's correct. And we'll start that in a couple hours and keep the job going.
Great. Boy, John. Boy, John, this is sticky stuff. I can see why Bob left us with this, John.
Yeah, it'll peel the hair off your arm.
Boy, I'll tell you.
Okay, well, we'll get it started right on top here.
Okay, I'll get it on the line here.
Okay, looks good.
Don't get stuck up in it there, Bob. We don't want you in it against the wall.
There we go.
Okay. Now, how long that's waterproof for, John?
Well, that's forever. That ain't going anywhere.
Boy, that's a far cry from the old spray-on with the tar emulsion.
It's a tough membrane. You try and rip it, it's not going to rip.
But rubber membrane, seal over top of the foam. Not only is it stopping the water, but it's also stopping that migration of cold. And then over top of this, we're going to put a Delta MS membrane that's going to even protect it further with an air barrier. Or when we backfill, it's going to protect and also give it that air barrier as well. So it's just going to be a super warm basement system. Well, you can see now that we've got the entire wall covered up 7-foot level with the peel and stick rubber membrane protecting the ICF system. Now, this whole wall is giving an R value greater than R50. So we want to protect it against water penetration. And that's the way to do it, 100%. But you know, we're using basements for a lot more than just storage these days. We're using it for rec rooms and basements and computer rooms, all those neat rooms, but they're usable spaces. And in order to keep that area protected, we're going to go one step further. We're going to go beyond even the peel and stick, and we're going to talk to Rob from Basement Systems about that. How are you doing, Rob?
Good, Joe.
Great. Tell me about this MS system.
Well, this is called Delta MS. It's a high-density dimpled air gap product.
Now, dimpled, meaning that those are all the little dimples.
Yep, these are all the little dimples. You can see the space in between the dimples. Concept behind this is that we're keeping the cold, moist soil from ever touching the foundation wall.
That way that there's air in behind them.
There can be air in behind, slight insulative value as well. Any hydrostatic pressure, the buildup of water that may occur on the outside of a foundation wall, keeping that away from the actual wall itself.
Now, what about water, groundwater?
Groundwater can build up, you know, if we have a failure in the drain towel or just a lot of water in certain regions.
Like a flooded low plain, that sort of thing, and directing water to the perimeter drains, that sort of thing?
That's right.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that membranes like this can help keep the waterway. Not only that, but they can help protect.
Well, I tell you, I've got a couple of pieces here. One's a rock, and the other one's a piece of concrete that's come off a form. And if that was backfilled, rolled in against that rubber membrane,
Yeah.
is the MS going to protect it against this?
The MS has a 5,200 pound per square foot compressive strength, and it will protect against items like this.
So not only are we taking a good, better system already, but we're adding to it and making it better.
That's right. So these people, whoever's moving in here, will have a nice dry area that they can be insured for years.
Rob, I want to thank you very much for coming out and giving us the full story on the Delta MS, because I'll tell you, it looks like the system to me.